Hello friends of the electrified charging fun and welcome to Electrified Speicher, your channel all around Škoda's e-mobility. My name is Matthias and here where I am in the midst of the Norwegian nature, well, this is 1,700 kilometers away from home. Home, that is in Switzerland, and we drove all the way from Switzerland, a bit through Austria, all the way from southern Germany up to northern Germany, all the way through Denmark, southern to northern, then took the ferry over to Kristiansand to Norway, and then came here. In the middle of the Telemark, province Telemark of Norway, close to Rjukan, is our first holiday home where I'm sitting here on the balcony enjoying nature. And if you're interested in how such a long road trip with an electric car with a Škoda ENYAQ 85X works, well, this video might be for you. I'm sharing my experience on the whole trip, on charging, on all the resting, on how to drive it and be relaxed, and why we took an ENYAQ 85X, one of the few ever built unless production stops, and why it is not an Elrock, which I would have preferred for this journey. And if you are interested in such a trip of 1,700 kilometers with an EV, well then stay tuned and enjoy this video. It's quite obvious that we are going on our Norwegian road trip, our holidays, not with my Phoenix Orange ENYAQ RS, but with this olive green ENYAQ Facelift. It's an 85X, as you can see here. So we've got the all-wheel drive version with the 210 kilowatts here. And down here you see the 21-inch wheels, the Supernova. And this car is provided to me from Škoda out of their press fleet. And with most cars in press fleets, well, this car is fully equipped. So you've got the Max package in this car, you've got the transport package, you have the glass roof up here, you have the towing bar. The only thing this car does not have is the winter package, so no front window heating and no heating on the rear seats. But hey, we are going in summer to Norway, so I bet we don't need it. And now let's have a look at the interior, because frankly, I am really happy about having the interior design, the design selection launch, because I love this micro fabric here, this really bright grayish color, and the recycled parts up here are also great because they are not glossy, they are matte and therefore no reflections. And I really like that design of the seats, and the color really fits the olive green, so a great decision to put that interior into this car. And with this car we are doing our Norwegian holiday trip. And as I already said, this car was provided to me by Škoda, and I do not have to pay for this. Therefore, you see the advertisement up there. But even if this would be my own car, the advertising is always up there because I have all the products with me I use regularly, but I also recommend them as affiliate links on Amazon, so it's advertising again. You always have too much luggage, you know, but when it comes to our dog Marley, we want to have him space. Therefore, this big dog kennel here, not too big so that he is neatly in it, so that he has some stability, but yet it takes the most of the boot. Due to several travels, we know exactly what fits on the left side of the kennel, and you see it here. We have perfectly fitted boxes, two of them, another is down there, another one which fits perfectly in front of it with two Rati ENYAQ attached, and our Škoda back here, which we can fit in like this, and there you go. The boot is completely full, so the rest is on the rear seat. Here is our little fridge, now attached to the 12-volt plug, because the 230 is no longer there in the Facelift, which is a big pity, and you see a lot of luggage. A small one, two big ones, a backpack, some baskets, a lot of stuff, yet there would be still plenty of room left in the car, don't get me wrong. But it's quite a lot of stuff, 2 people, 1 dog for around 3 weeks. And if you look at the front seats, well, there it is, the space of the ENYAQ. There we didn't put a lot of stuff, so we have a quite comfy ride. All already over 1 hour and 40 minutes on our way to Norway. 147 kilometers driven, and the consumption weight, it's really low, 18.3 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers. Yes, average speed is only 87 kilometers an hour, but this is due to driving through Switzerland, a lot of construction sites, like always when we are traveling. And one question often arises, and this is, how long can you drive until you need to charge? Because there are a lot of myths. And we started the journey with 100% SOC. I charged at home, and the car stated 499 kilometers of range. Well, this is a press car, and those cars are rarely driven on highways and are rarely driven on German highways fast. Therefore, consumption values are often rather low. And as soon as we put in the navigation, well, the range dropped 100 kilometers down to 399 kilometers. And if you see that behavior of your ENYAQ or ELROC, well, don't worry. The car simply takes into account the average speed you will drive. And therefore it takes 120 on the Swiss highway, 130 on the Austrian, and now on the German highway as well. And just estimates consumption for that, and therefore the range drops. But what does that really mean? Well, have a look at our route guidance here. And when you look at the route guidance, you see our first charging stop will be in 1 hour 36 minutes, or even 173 kilometers away, which basically means that we drove over 3 hours before the first break. And 3 hours of driving is quite a long time, since in every other country, despite Germany, you've got speed limits on the highway. This is pretty much applicable to your country. You will travel at least 3 hours until you've got the first charging stop. And for me, this is pretty convenient. But I'm a driver who also does not speed in Germany. 130 is enough for me in Germany. I only drive faster to overtake some trucks or slow driving cars. First charging stop, 25% SOC, way too much. 10 less would be better, but we are driving so efficiently. See here, 17.4 kilowatts, 17.4 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers, 96 kilometers on average. That's perfect. Plug in. Back on the highway, and yes, 23 minutes of a charging break, and it was way too long, because now we have charged enough to go to our destination for today, yet this was not planned. There is a second charging stop planned also for our dog to get a bit of relief and go out, play a bit on the grass. But what has happened? Well, let's put it this way, electrified Speicher has happened, because as soon as I pulled towards the charger, a first person came towards me. That's the new ENYAQ, right? Yes, that's the new ENYAQ with a facelift. And he was just interested because of a company car for him, which could be an ENYAQ. And then, you're the guy from the videos. Yes, I am. I mean, it's not that hard to identify me with that bald head and my beard. Well, that's Speicher elektrisiert in Germany, or electrified Speicher for you. And 5 minutes of a talk, 5 minutes of a charge. Then a second ENYAQ pulled up towards me at the second charger. He has a small trailer. He put the trailer aside and started charging, and looked over and said, "You are the guy who really influenced me into buying an ENYAQ." And he never regretted it. And then I had another chat, whilst my wife was already out with the dog. And again, 5 to 10 minutes just gone. Then I went to the restrooms, and then I wanted something to eat, so we charged to 80%. I totally understand that this is not the normal charging break, especially if you're on a business trip. But for me, on holidays, as Speicher elektrisiert, why shouldn't I have a chat with my community? I always say the community is the best this channel has to offer, and therefore, if you meet me at the charger, if you see me, come over, let's have a chat. I'm always open to this. Back at the charger, and as you can see, we're charging with nearly 180 kilowatts here. We plugged in with 19%, something like this. And see the stats here. 102 kilometers an hour average speed, nearly 600 kilometers driven, 18.2 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers consumption. This is quite okay. It could be a bit better, but this is not bad at all. And you can't drive faster. In Germany, there's one construction site after the other, and the next, and the next, and the next. So we decided to charge here. We did not have to, because this was enough to reach our destination. Yet at our destination, we can charge at an AC wall box for 50 euro cents. And here at the Ionity, I charge for 39 euro cents. So why not charging up here? Well, one reason could be this charger is fully occupied. 6 charging stations, one is already waiting over there, one car. But we got directly a spot. Waiting time about 10 seconds, I guess, not more. But don't get me wrong, look ahead. At the petrol station, there is also a lot of business going on with cars lining up. Maybe you can see it when the truck leaves. You see, there are also cars lining up, so you can't fuel up directly. But we'll charge now up to 80%, so we are ready to go tomorrow. So here we are for our today's goal, as we have reached now our first stopover. It's just 3:30 in the afternoon, and of course you could have driven way more. Look at the stats: 18 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers. This is quite a good value. 6 hours for 612 kilometers, 101 kilometers average. More simply not possible. Why? Construction sites, construction sites, construction sites in Germany. No traffic jam at all. 2 charging stopovers, not needed. 1 would have been sufficient, because over there you see the Hyundai Kona. There we could also charge, but as I already said, a bit more expensive. Therefore, we won't charge here. We are here with 72% SOC, 319 kilometers of range. We will start with that here tomorrow morning. So here we are, first charging stop, and again 18%, 20% nearly, because I couldn't speed on the German highway. The last couple of kilometers I could drive 180 to get the battery a bit down, but that was not much, because a lot of 100 and 120 up here. So now we are at the Lüneburger Heide, way up north before Hamburg. You see a fixed charger Ionity here. Over there, by the way, another ENYAQ. And this guy came over, asked me, hey, this is the new one, right? Yes. And it has exactly the color he ordered. So for the first time, he saw this color in reality in the shining sun here. And he was so happy that he chose that one. So again, we had a chat at the Ionity here. And one important thing, well, we are charging now here. We started our journey today with 67%, not with 80 or 100, because so often it is said you should charge at 100% when you are staying overnight, but you don't have to. Of course, it's a big benefit that you can do that with an electric car charging at home. But if you're not able to charge at home, this should not stop you from getting an electric car. In this case, I'm not talking about your everyday charge up where charging at home is a real benefit, but on a long distance trip, you can book an accommodation which might not have a charging opportunity, or like in our case, where charging is too expensive. And then just drive, and when it's time to charge, just charge. Or even better, combine it with something useful. Grabbing a good cup of coffee, something to eat, and then charging becomes fun. Welcome to the Danish highway, or at least what is left of it. This is a Danish construction site where they are renewing the highway. We just arrived in Denmark, and for us it's quite clear the first charging stop will happen right after the border at the first Ionity. Always. It's tradition. And when you come to that Ionity, well, for the first time there was no ENYAQ. Despite our ENYAQ. But that is a curiosity, because on every other stop, whenever I hit an Ionity on the long journey, there is already an ENYAQ. We didn't see any L-Rock on our tour yet, but ENYAQs. And whenever you come to a charging station, there's an opportunity for small talk, if you like, with every EV driver. but especially with those who drive a Škoda ENYAQ. Interesting thing is, those people constantly tell me positive things. They are happy with their car. Of course there are problems. Of course they say this is not so good, this could be better, but in overall they are really happy. And this is quite an interesting thing, because what Škoda did here for e-mobility, for a breakthrough of e-mobility, is astounding. No, they are not the innovators with the latest battery technology or the newest fancy whatsoever entertainment, but what they did in the heads of the people with all their 100,000 cars they sold is amazing, because this is what is important. Showing people that it's possible and giving them a good feeling that they did the right choice, not only with e-mobility, but with their car as well. And this is what I learn at every charger where I'm simply trying to charge up and get involved into small talk. And yes, this is advertising for Škoda. They are not paying me for this, but I think they deserve it. Therefore, we are already branded, we are wearing our Škoda hats. Now we're going to our accommodation here in Denmark, because again, we do not drive straight up to Norway yet. Another stopover, another overnight stay. This is way more relaxed than every journey where you just pull through. We drive 6 or 7 hours, have 2 rests, even if we only would need 1. And for our dog, this is also the best he can have. Over there at the barn, we could have charged overnight at our B&B here in Denmark, but we didn't. So, a new thing, we start with 26% SOC this morning, and we are going 185 kilometers here up to the ferry to go to Norway. But on our way, there's an Ionity, just 55 kilometers away. And so we decided to charge up there. Why? Well, first off, because we can. And second, here we would have paid 3 Danish krones or 40 euro cent. And at Ionity, it's a bit cheaper. Don't get me wrong, this is not so expensive. But it's also to showcase, don't worry about charging. As I told you, yesterday we left with 67%, now with even 26%. Waiting at the ferry terminal, as you can see, we have bought EV charge aboard, 12 euros, not 13. So we are in lane number B. We are at the front of that lane. See, there are a lot of people. No one's want to charge. Only those who are here want to charge. Behind us, there are several more EV cars. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is this. This is the navigation, the route guidance of Škoda. And it tells us we will reach our destination, our holiday home, around 8 p.m. And no information about the ferry here, the ferry connection, yet it got it right. Yes, this might not be the best choice for a ferry if you want to travel up there. We could have taken a ferry to Larvik instead. We didn't do so because we did a lot of replanning in Norway, and the first week was originally planned around this area here, where Kristiansand would be the much better choice. So we didn't replan the ferry. It doesn't matter. But does the Škoda navigation, the route guidance, really know the ferry connections here? Does it know that we go with Fjord line and not Color line up here? And really knows that the schedule, so it can really estimate everything? I doubt that. But this is not about driving in Norway. I will record that separately. This is about getting aboard the ferry and do an EV charge on the ferry. They have 22 kilowatt chargers. Well, we can't make use of them. We can only take 11 kilowatts from them. But if you've got a 22 kilowatt AC car, this is magnificent because you pay a fixed price. With our 11 kilowatt capability, well, it will be 25 to 27 kilowatt hour, something like that. It's okay for the price, but when we hit Norway, when we hit the road there, we can directly drive to our holiday home. We're now close to the Norwegian shore, and there you can see an L-Rock in Timiano green, and we have charged up to 82%. So when we are still charging as of now, because we are still not in the port, so I guess we will 33% up just through 2.5 hours of going with the ferry over to Norway. And now we have 350 kilometers of range, which is basically enough to get to our holiday home. But we need to do some groceries, some shopping, so we will still have another chance to charge. Our first stopover since we left the ferry, since we drove off the ferry, 200 kilometers driven. And yes, it's 55 kilometers an hour on average, as we are here in Norway. And there you go, 14.5 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers. That's the result out of this. But over 3.5 hours driven, and this makes me a bit tired. And I wanted to charge here, but why? You remember we left the ferry with 82%, now it's still 44%, 206 kilometers left, 50 until we are at our first destination, at our holiday home. So here we are in Norway, and it's time for a conclusion from our whole trip up here, the 1,700 kilometers. I've got some notes here with some information, so let's sum all of this up. We took it quite relaxed. So we had 2 sleepovers, we drove 3 days. You can do it with just 1 sleepover. You could even do it with no sleepover when the drivers are just changing through. But remember, there's a ferry going between Denmark and Norway, and you have to be on time, or to be more precise, an hour before the ferry starts. So it might be difficult to time that perfectly if you do that way. So for us, this was way more relaxed. And now let's look at the days and how we drove. Well, you already saw it, well, but now let's do a summary. Day 1, 612 relaxed kilometers and 6 hours of driving. And we just used 18 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers. 1 single charging would be enough, but we charged 2 times because my car will never tell me when I have to charge. And even if the battery is as full as it is, I will charge. And if that sounds odd for you, because most people complain that they charge way too early, well, for us, we had to do a second stopover. The dog wanted a break, just go out a bit, play and do its business. And we also wanted to do our business, have something to eat, something to drink. Therefore, we did a second charging stopover, which was not necessary. Then, day 2, another relaxed day. 624 kilometers all the way up to Denmark. Again, around 6 hours of driving. And again, 2 times charging. This time necessary because, as you saw in the video, we didn't charge at our first stopover because the price was quite a bit too high for me. And as soon as you leave Germany with its unlimited speed, well, at least where they still got that, it becomes way more relaxed. Because if there's a speed limit on the highway, people are driving more fluent. There is a better flow in traffic, as I would point it. Our last day. Well, first we drove another 1.5 hours, 155 kilometers to the ferry in Hirtshals. There we were about 1 hour 50, 1 hour, nearly 2 hours too early. And now we take a walk with the dog, boarded the ferry to Kristiansand. And we charged on the ferry, as you saw, 30%. So for the last 250 kilometers, it took us 4 hours. But we also did shopping, so we have something to eat at our holiday home. And to sum this up, well, on day 3, we only drove close to 400 kilometers, but also the ferry. I thought, when I do that road trip video traveling to Norway 1,700 kilometers, why not put in our back journey to Switzerland, again 1,700 kilometers. So here we are. And currently we are charging at an Ionity here in Germany, Harz West, which is a resting station along the highway. And for the first time, we had to wait 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes until we get a charger. Only 6 chargers here from Ionity, and now you feel it that the holiday season is starting. The first weekend for the Danish and the Norwegian people to go to the chargers, and they do, because they are traveling south. So you see a lot of stress on the chargers, but still, it works out, and 5 minutes of a waiting time. This is not much. You can even experience that at a petrol station. Now let's talk about our drive, because it is already the second day. On the first day, we started in Norway near Jørpeland and drove to Kristiansand to the ferry. This is just 261 kilometers, yet it took us 4 hours because of the speed limits in Norway. And average consumption, only 14.6 kilowatt hours, 100 kilometers. We started there with around 80% SOC, and drove to the ferry. Then in Kristiansand we went with 28% on the ferry. We charged on the ferry, and on the ferry the captain says, well, we have about 20 meters a second of wind and 2.5 meters of waves in the Skagerrak in the sea, so traveling took us 30 minutes longer on the ferry. We could charge up to 65%, however, and afterwards we drove all the way through Denmark to the border of Germany and had our rest in Flensburg. And this drive, well, was quite easy. We started with 65% from the ferry, drove to the first Ionity in Denmark, where we could charge up with no problem, then drove to the second at Abenraa, close to our sleepover, charged again. That was the first day, and just due to the ferry, 3 hours of traveling over the sea, being 1 hour early to the ferry, waiting there, and then drove off from the ferry just 30 minutes later because we were some of the last cars driving out of the ferry, just takes time. And now on the second day we are already a bit of traveling. We've done already a bit of traveling. This is our second charge over because we started with 49% at the hotel. Why charge even more? You can just go to the next charger. We did so, and now we look, well, it could be that we can reach home just today. 1,030 kilometers of driving today, and our route guidance says just around 7 p.m. could possibly be the time when we are home. We are already up to 18% from 9% here, and I'm at a different Ionity charging up. Why? Well, we had another Ionity planned and I drove off the highway and it was terribly full. Despite all of this, the next thing, well, trucks have to rest at the weekend as they are not allowed to drive on Sundays here in Germany. And what happened? They park all over the place. Well, there are not enough spaces for trucks to park yet, and I totally understand the problem of the drivers, yet parking alongside the road on the other side of the chargers, making it enormously difficult for EV drivers to get to the chargers. This is not the solution. This is just bad. So we skipped that charger and just drove a bit slower towards another charger a couple of kilometers away. We are just here, we are charging. And with that, let's have a look at driving because there's also something to see. This is it. 876 kilometers in 8.5 hours with 20.8 kilowatts hours 100 kilometers. And there are two reroutes, so there were 2 traffic jams and we had to avoid them, and we drove off the highway, and so we are a bit slower. And now this is our 4th and final charger on our way back home. There you have it, we are back home. It's close to 8:30 in the evening. Still 21% on the battery, just shows that we've charged again a bit too much on the last charging stop, but here are the stats you are waiting for. 1,042 kilometers in one go with 10 hours and 17 minutes with an average consumption of 20.4 kilowatt hours 100 kilometers and an average speed of 102 kilometers driven. This is the driving time. This does not include our 4 charging stops we did. Remember, we started with 49%, not fully charged. You could also do this with 3 charging stopovers. And in total, it took us close to 12 hours to drive this distance. We drove at the speed limit where the speed limit was given, and when on the German highway there was no speed limit, we drove 140, 150. This should be it for this video. And now I'm quite curious, did you already did such a long journey with an electric car, maybe with an ENYAQ or an ENYAQ? Write me in the comments. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel so you do not miss out any new video. And until then, stay full of energy.